Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode 128. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here on this Wednesday show. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm looking at all these leaks, man, and some of these teams have got it bad, man. Like the Jets, I think, have to play both the Browns and the Steelers in week 2. That's going to be tough, man. The league really has it in for them. I think there's a couple teams that have to play two teams in some of these weeks. Looking at these leaks, look. We got some games out there that we know for sure the NFL is doing a good job of teasing the schedule, I guess, if you will. And then obviously, I guess we're a little more than 24 hours away from the official leaked schedule being leaked at that point. So kind of an exciting time. We've obviously known who the Steelers will play since last season ended. There's something, I guess, magical that happens when you get the dates and the order of the games lined up and all. And once again, should have that by Thursday night and all. So another exciting time of the year that the league has learned how to monopolize and advertise on, and kudos to them.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, it's not my favorite time of year personally, and I talk about that in my terrible take today because we know the teams, we know home and away, and obviously there's value in the primetime slate and the bye week, and for the players themselves, it can be important. But I don't get that excited about the schedule portion of the year, and I kind of loathe the NFL dragging this out in very typical NFL fashion.
Now, you absolutely have got to love the jersey number announcements. I mean, that has to rank way up high on your list as well.
I care about the jersey numbers more than I care about the actual schedule because Conor Heyward wearing an 83 is a bigger concern to me than the Steelers week 1.
Yeah, and how do you feel? Here we go down the hole, but grab a flashlight. But I have a feeling that's not going to stick.
Yeah,
that number with him, 83 with him, because
sure.
It just, I mean, look, I don't know how many times we have to say it, since he's been drafted. I mean, we were talking about a kid that's, I don't think even measured 6 foot at the combine or at the pro day and all like that. And you don't see very many true tight ends. I mean, even at 6 foot, I mean, I think some of the shorter tight ends around the league are like 6'2", something like that, and that's the bottom end of the scale when it comes to those guys there. So I understand why they probably are just assigning him to that room to start off with there, but he's going to, I think, learn all facets of it, as we've said, and be in all these meetings. I project that if indeed he does wind up making the 53-man roster, that we'll see a number probably in the 30s or the 40s with him.
Yeah, I think that number works better for him overall. Some other notable numbers, of course, everyone knows Kenny Pickett's wearing number 8, George Pickens wearing number 14, Calvin Austin wearing number 19, Marvin Leal wearing number 98. So those are just some of the notable ones there. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's the off season, so we're just kind of conditioned to making more out of these situations than there really actually is.
Yeah, before anybody goes out and buys a jersey other than maybe Kenny Pickett's, buyer beware, because you never know. I mean, you would think a lot of these guys, maybe like Pickens and Austin, and maybe even Leal, those will be their numbers. But stranger things have happened. Once you get through this problem, I know a lot of people were upset that Pickens didn't get number 1. How do you feel about that? A lot of people are fired up about that. They, the whole Gary Anderson thing and all like that. Look, Gary Anderson's number 1 isn't officially retired, but I guess it's kind of termed unofficially, officially to that aspect there. And obviously the NFL has allowed these guys, these eligibles to get single digit numbers and all like that. I mean, I don't, in theory, I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep either way, but I wouldn't really have an issue with George Pickens wearing number 1.
I wouldn't either. And maybe at some point he switches back there, but as you said, maybe that's one of those unofficially retired numbers. But you're right. Things are subject to change. It's a 90-man roster, so rookies are trying to work around that. So as you said, nothing's really official. And even sometimes a guy a year in will change numbers. Remember Mike Hilton changed numbers after a year. Joe Hayden, will change numbers after a year. So even after that first year, it's not always set in stone.
Right. Now they do have stock and all that they have to buy out and all,
right.
When it comes to the jerseys and stuff like, officially licensed stuff and all like that. But you would think that, some of these rookies, whatever number that they get come week 1 of the season, that'll more than likely be their number for a little bit there.
Yeah, but at least everyone should kind of hold off until then, except for Kenny Pickett, who should be sticking with his college number of number 8. Dave, speaking of roster numbers and jersey numbers, a couple of numbers freed up yesterday. Pittsburgh finally making their cuts to get to really be at the 90-man roster limit after adding their undrafted free agent class. So waiving 3 players, that was long snapper Rex Sunahara, linebacker Tigray Scales, and waived injured cornerback Isaiah Johnson. So 3 names there off the roster to make room for the undrafted class.
Right. And we had talked, I think, on the other show about, man, they still haven't officially signed 3 of those guys. Well, that's why they had to free up room on those guys. I don't know why they waited so long to make these moves, but Jalen Warren, Tucker, the tackle out of North Carolina, and Mateo Durant, the running back out of Duke, are now all officially signed as well too. So all 10 of the undrafted free agents have now officially been signed, and the roster right now officially sits at, I guess, 90 overall as we sit here right now.
Yeah, so no super notable names there. Johnson will go to IR after clearing waivers, which he almost certainly will, and perhaps get released with an injury settlement at some point. He was interesting, kind of height, athleticism type corner, former receiver out of Houston, but probably won't get to see what he can do in the NFL now. And Scales actually played a little bit for Pittsburgh back in 2020. He's bounced on and off the roster, but that's a very crowded off-ball linebacker room, so not a lot missed there.
Right. Not a shock overall, I don't think, on a lot of these names, especially, you already had you got a couple of, you got a long snapper already there in combat and all like that. So, and Tigray Scales became very expendable once the team not only signed Miles Jack during the offseason, but brought back a couple of the inside linebackers on the restricted tender type situations, and then they drafted an inside linebacker in Mark Robinson during the draft.
Right. Should note the next big thing here, obviously the schedule release coming out Thursday. That'll officially fully drop at 8 p.m. There'll probably be more official leaks coming out prior to then. I know at 6 p.m. Each team is allowed to announce their first home game of the year. Will Pittsburgh have a week 1 home game? Odds probably not looking too good, I think, based on your estimation.
Yeah, look, unless they do something maybe on a Monday night game, because we went over this. I think the Pirates are entertaining the Cardinals on that Sunday there at PNC Park on, I think the first Sunday is September 11th, I think this year. So unless it's a Sunday night game or a Monday night home game, it looks like the Steelers will what is it, 8 years in a row now, open up on the road. And, if you believe some of these leaks that are out there, which be careful is all I got to say there. They seem to think that the Steelers will open on the road against Cleveland on September 11th. That seems to be the buzz right now. Now, the last time the Steelers opened against a division team, I believe it was Cleveland. Wasn't that the tie game?
The tie.
In what was that, 2018 or something, 17?
Sounds about right. That was with the Conor fumble late in that game. Yep.
2018 or 19, I think. 17. Do you have it in front of you here?
I don't. I can look it up though. Around there though. That sounds right.
But that would have been the last time that the Steelers, I believe, opened up with a divisional game. Let me see if I can pull it up.
It was
here.
18.
No, 17. No, they did in 17 as well too. 17 on the road against Cleveland. No, 17 on the road against Cleveland. They won that game 21-18. They turned around the next year in 2018 and had the game at Cleveland tie 21-21. And I believe that is the last time that they opened up against a divisional team.
Right, because it was the Patriots blowout loss in 19, the Giants Monday night in 20, and then the Bills at Buffalo last year.
So not unprecedented by any stretch of the imagination, but look, that could, depending on what happens with Deshaun Watson, probably if indeed that's the week one game, then more than likely you're facing someone like Brissett in that week one game. So if indeed that happens, and if indeed, here we are, a bunch of ifs, and it would be kind of a little bit of a plus when it comes to the Steelers' schedule, I think, should that be the case. But yeah, look, it might not even be that. I mean, leaks. We'll see how close some of these leaks are, overall. I mean, this one guy's really tracking them real serious across the league here. He's got the Steelers at Cleveland in week one. He's got the Steelers at Miami in week 4. He's got the Steelers at Baltimore in week 10, hosting the Saints in week 13, at the Eagles in week 14, hosting the Patriots and then the Ravens in week 16 and 17, and then closing out in week 18 against the Bengals. That's what some of these quote unquote supposed leaks end up having the Steelers. Now, I usually, unless it's like a TV partner or something like that, or a beat writer, we usually don't pass along, these leaks. I'm sure you'll probably have a post running, right?
I will. Yeah, I'll have something to update, and then for credible leaks, I'll update throughout the day, because I'm sure some of those will come out. And then obviously the thing at 6, we'll know the first home game, and then at 8:00 we'll know the entire schedule. So we'll be keeping tabs on it, even though it is admittedly not my favorite thing to do. I know it has a lot of interest and intrigue, and again, there is some value in it. And on a personal note, I have a wedding this year as well, so there's hopefully the Steelers game won't conflict too much with a wedding I have later this fall. So that's on a personal thing, probably the most interested I'm in right now in terms of the schedule.
All right, hopefully that's the case.
Yep. Do you want to mention as well that Dave's going on vacation for a couple of days here? So I know rookie minicamp's coming up, and that'll be exciting. I think Josh and I will do a brief kind of schedule recap that'll go up for Friday morning, him and I, and then Dave and I will probably reconvene, sounds like probably Tuesday, to talk about rookie minicamp. That's just a scheduling note on that. And so with rookie minicamp, we'll get to see the guys for the first time, a lot of interviews, obviously not a ton of football related things to discuss. We'll see if any of the trial players get signed as well, but just a small programming note there about what the upcoming schedule of the podcast looks like.
Man, good luck keeping up with all the tryout guys. It sounds like there's a slew of them, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think Josh is tracking 2 more that got announced today. There's, I think, a DB from South Carolina and somebody from, I lost what school it was from, but another, I think, player coming in. So it should be about the usual 15 to 20 tryout guys, which is, on a personal note, great to see.
Yeah, you really enjoyed that. You had a big rant, not too long or a year ago, I think, about the team, how it needs to open it back up, some of these tryout guys, and not limit the numbers. And that doesn't seem to be the case this year. True or false? They will sign at least one tryout guy to their offseason roster.
Well, it's usually partially based off of injuries. If a guy gets hurt, it's on the 90-man, but I'll say true. I'll say somebody gets signed.
I will say true as well, too. How about 2? You think 2 will get signed? That seems to be kind of I guess they have done as many as about 3, I think, one year, don't they do?
Yeah, I think they did a handful. I feel like we're on a game show right now.
Right.
I'm like, can't go over.
Name that undrafted free agent.
My favorite game show. I don't know. I'll say it'll be 1 or 2. I really couldn't tell you exactly how many. And again, I think injuries partially play a role in this.
All right. And first year players, I think, are still invited to this thing. Obviously, all rookies. So you got a draft class of 7. You've got the undrafted group of 10. That's 17 right there. I don't know. You probably got to what about another probably a dozen or so, I don't know, 15 or so probably that are considered first year players, maybe a little bit more than that. And then however many tryout guys they get coming in.
Yeah, so it should be about 50 guys there. That's one reason why I like having the tryout players as well, because you can kind of have a full roster for your mini camp. It's not the skeleton crew. When you in last year, 2 years ago, you had like 20 guys there, and so it really just wasn't a lot of people to work with, and so probably made the actual evaluation process. Not that you're doing a ton of that, but it's not. It really didn't feel like football, I'm sure. So I think this year with a full like 50-man roster, that's going to make the practice and the weekend that much better.
And also, we should probably expect with those rookies in town, a good chunk of the class should get signed. Draft class should get signed over the weekend. I mean, at a minimum, the 2 7th-round picks and the 6th-round picks should be signed. I would think there's not much to negotiate when it comes to Calvin Austin's deal either, because wasn't that kind of a late
It was a comp pick.
Comp pick too, so that even lays outside of the original first 4-round picks there. So I don't think there's much for him to have a leg to stand on to negotiate. Now, as far as the top 3 picks, I mean, Pickett, A, with him being a quarterback, and B, with him being in the top 20, that should be a fully guaranteed deal. I think there's probably not a lot to really negotiate on that end, and they would kind of press the Steelers' hand. They're his agent if the Steelers try to get around a couple of things there with a few guarantees or offset language. So I don't think there's going to be much negotiation when it comes to him overall. I won't be totally shocked if come back on Tuesday and the whole class is signed.
Yeah, it certainly could be. It's a good time to do it. And so you'll have to send me some of those slotted contract numbers as well, because I know everything's kind of set in stone based off of the CBA, but pass those along to me, because you don't want me trying to figure out how much rookies are making.
Yeah, and I think there is still a little bit of gray area on them, because I think even over the cap has a little bit older projected type numbers in there as well too. Now I think Joel Corey has on CBS Sports. By the way, he has a couple of great recent articles up on that. He just did a podcast too, talking about what these draft picks have to negotiate with. So it's a very good educational podcast that Joe Corey just released. Just search your podcast machine for Joe Corey and Cap podcast there, and you should be able to get that up. But longtime friend of the show, gets me a lot of information that I need whenever I need it there. So make sure you're supporting him, and you'll learn a lot by listening to that latest episode of the podcast there as well too, because he talks about things that these rookie draft picks, several of them, the things that are kind of negotiable in these deals here. But once again, I'll try to get you that info over, Alex, so you can add them into the post as they sign.
All right, good. Another piece of info you've gathered today, the last signing bonus for the lone unknown number on the undrafted free agent. That's Tyree Johnson, the edge. We didn't know how much he got as a signing bonus, but you're now saying it's $10,000. So that's the final box to check there.
Absolutely. All 10 of them under contract now. It looks like in total, the Steelers gave out $111,500 in signing bonuses to their undrafted free agents overall there. And if you take that number and divide it by 3, let me see if I can get that to do this here. Divide that by
like 35.
Like 37,160. What's that? 7, I guess, rounded up, is what it impacted the cap there. $37,167 they used up in cap space there, because none of these contracts cracked the rule of 51 there. And so what you do is only the third, because they're all 3-year contracts, just the a third of the allocated signing bonus goes towards the cap because none of those contracts in totality cracked the rule of 51 there. So very, 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 very cheap cost associated with that. Now, once again, should this team sign any tryout players coming out of this weekend, I think the norm with them is to give something like $1,000 signing bonus. Who knows? Maybe that'll get inflated up to about 1,500, right around in there at most there. So we could have a couple more tiny signing bonuses, on the way here after this weekend.
And I believe the highest undrafted, highest signing bonuses to the Steelers UDFA class was Mateo Durant and Jordan Tucker, each receiving $15K. Correct? Nobody else got $15K. I don't believe.
That's correct. And based on all these undrafted free agents now, and after all these moves have been made, and all, I have the Steelers at 12 million, almost 12,774,000 under the cap. Technically, it's 12,773,753 under the cap at this point. So you would expect the offset of the draft class to eat up probably that 2.7 million right around in there. So you probably after they get all these draft picks signed, this team's probably going to be right around 10 million under the cap.
Okay, good deal. My one minor rant here, you said Pittsburgh spent about $111,000. Why not spend the maximum pool for a team that doesn't offer the partial guarantees and base salary? This team should be spending the maximum when it comes to the allotted signing bonus pool, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, maybe at some point, I mean, it's just it's always just been the way that they've done business that way. They don't really even come close to the league limit on the signing bonus, which I think this year is a little bit more than $160,000.
Right, it's like 167, 168.
Right, as far as the max that they could spend there. So obviously they're a good 40, 50, almost $50,000 away from that. Right now. So maybe they view it as, maybe another kid will come along and maybe they want to throw some money that way. But even so, I mean, they're not going to, this year they wouldn't give more than a $15,000 signing bonus to one of those kids, but maybe 25,000 at most. Maybe that's why they hold back a little bit of money that way. I don't know, but and obviously they don't guarantee any portions of these undrafted contracts, and that's why they probably miss out on a few of the guys that they would like to sign, because you have some other teams out there saying, look, we'll partially guarantee half of your of this base salary, and and the Steelers just don't do that kind of stuff.
Right. No, and I understand that part, and that's fine. That's kind of their philosophical stance, but then you better maximize your signing bonus pool, because that's the only bargaining chip you have in terms of the financial aspect of it. So to not maximize that when you're allowed to use it, when it's not a lot of money still overall, to me just seems a little bit of a poor method.
And look, a lot of these agents of these kind of undrafted guys are not the known agents too, and they just want to get their clients signed, and they don't want to run the risk of trying to negotiate themselves out of a situation, and that kid end up not getting missing that first weekend and looking for a job at that point there. So that's why a lot of these kids end up taking only the signing bonus is guaranteed money. That's become pretty much the norm. If the NFLPA is smart down the line, they'll start pushing even harder for some of these undrafted kids to get more guaranteed money, as well. At least, maybe the initial base salary guaranteed. But good luck with that. They can't even get any of their own contracts, kind of guaranteed at this point. Before the NFLPA really starts getting in a position where they're going to start forcing a hand on more of this is when they do actually hold out and start impacting the season and impacting bottom lines by by teams missing games,
You're talking about like lockouts during like CBA negotiation.
Right. And obviously we're years away from that, from potentially happening again. They talk a good game going up up until this point, and all veteran players with money tell the other players to save their money, and they don't have money to save.
That's been the issue, because it's forced the NFLPA to negotiate quicker because their players say we're broke, we don't have money, because they don't get paid obviously during and get paid during the season. In terms of the base salary. You
have the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots is a lot bigger group of people than the haves. And it's easy for the haves to say, when they're over there with $100 million in their bank account saying, you guys save your money, we can get through this, and really press the owner's hands. And these other guys are over there eating ramen noodles, Did you have to do much of that, eating the ramen noodles or whatnot at college? What kind of budget were you on in college?
A little bit, but it wasn't as cliche as eat ramen noodles every single night. You had a meal plan and stuff like that, so it wasn't too bad. But I know in the lockout 2010, that was the big issue because some of the players were just like flat broken, really pressuring the union to make a deal. I know the last time around, I think the union was withholding some like the Mad money and stuff like that to try to be able to give these guys some money back later during the negotiations, but it still felt like the union folded pretty quickly.
Right, it does. And talking about your college days, the pre-Steelers Depot Metroplex days.
Those were the days. They were days, at least.
They were days. Are you watching
that?
Are you watching that Lakers? You don't have HBO, do you? You're not watching that Lakers documentary.
Is it Winning Time?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Yeah, it's okay. It gets a little bit far-fetched in some places.
Isn't Jerry West suing them over his characterization?
I thought I heard something about that. But it kind of, I think even that's kind of jumped the shark with me at this point.
Hey, come full circle on our Trump the Shark commentary. So knee deep in union discussion and HBO shows. It really is an off-season episode for sure. Dave, to bring it back to football and Kenny Pickett in particular, you've done a great job and just tremendous work here in the thoroughness and the ease of access for people to view this stuff in terms of Kenny Pickett's big time throws. We talked about his fumbles on the last show, and now you've talked about his off-script pass attempts and really broken that down. Well, even a bit of a comparison to other quarterbacks in this class. And so I went through the clips last night. I thought some of the numbers based on the number of off-script plays Pickett had compared to other quarterbacks in this class was pretty eye-opening. So just kind of walk us through that study and some of the main takeaways you have.
Yeah, first and foremost, I mean, I love doing this aspect, and I love passing along this contextualized info for the sheer fact that, and I try not to throw too much opinion into it because I want all the data out there. I want all the tape out there. I want people to be, that don't have a lot of time to go searching for this stuff, to be able to look at different facets of particularly a quarterback. I mean, how important position is that, to look at different aspects of his game that maybe didn't get a chance to study that. And look, I mean, even us, we go as deep as we can on a surface view when going through games on quarterbacks, but looking down at particular situations that these kids are in, it does kind of open your eyes and allows you to have kind of a deeper dive than what you had even during the pre-draft process for guys like me and you and the other guys on the site there. But first all, let me say that this info that I've used for this particular study on off-script plays for 2000 or off, let me back up. Off-script pass attempts for Kenny Pickett came from Sports Info Solutions from 2021 data. Now, let's be very clear here. These are classified by Sports Info Solutions by filtering them down they are deemed broken plays. All right. They don't have like an off script check mark there. So you have to be kind of creative with how you break these down. They do have the ability to not check, let's say, broken plays and then get all the plays that were like design rollouts and all, but those aren't technically off script plays, are they? So you have to kind of drill this data down as quickly as you can to give you at least a manageable section of plays to go through here. Now, in total, according to and I'm kind of a slave to whatever their numbers spit out at me. They had a total, I believe, of 36 broken play pass attempts in 2021 for Kenny Pickett. Now, were there other broken plays? Obviously, yes, when it comes to the quarterback. I mean, you've got some that are broken plays where he would scramble and not attempt to pass. And then obviously you have some broken plays where he would be sacked. I did not count all those. I just wanted to look at the broken plays that he actually got off a pass attempt by. We have plenty of time throughout the offseason to look at maybe the sacks or the broken play sacks or the broken play scrambles and those kind of things here. But once again, these are only pass attempts here. And I was able to pull the numbers, or what I think are at least the totality of the numbers on the rest of the top quarterback deemed quarterbacks in this 2022 class. That meaning Malik Willis, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, and Matt Corral. And it's astonishing. And you hope these. I don't have any way of saying these are 100% accurate, right? Because I mean, these are people charting, and I'm sure one person doesn't chart all these games, and obviously there could be some missed in here, but
it should be very close.
It should. I would like to think that they're very close, especially for as much as we pay sports, for as much as you and I pay Sports Info Solutions, it better be damn close. I have Kenny Pickett at 36 attempts. The next closest on the list from last year is Malik Willis at 30. Sam Howell only 17. Desmond Ridder 9. What if I would have told you that Desmond Ridder only had 9 broken play pass attempts I hope these numbers are right. I'll have to maybe drill down and get all those from people just to double check and all. But I use the same method with drilling down that I used on the rest of them. Matt Corral 8 total pass attempts on deemed broken plays by Sports Info Solutions here. That's quite a drop off. 36 for Pickett, 30 for Willis, 17 for Howell, 9 for Ridder and Matt Corral. Now, obviously, some of these ones by Ridder, the discrepancy is here. Maybe he took a lot more sacks, and I think Ridder did take a lot of broken play sacks as opposed to Pickett and all like that. So that's the first thing that jumps out when kind of comparing these guys. Pickett completed 21 of these 36 pass attempts, which is not a bad completion percentage at all, for 281 yards and 6 touchdowns off of broken play pass attempts. 0 interceptions too. So just as a stat line as a whole, 21 for 36 for 281 yards with 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And again, I'm so surprised to see Howell only at 17. You thought with how bad that offensive line was this past year that you would have had the number double, but maybe because that dude just ran so much that there weren't pass attempts. And then Ridder at 9, really surprising. Corral at 8, I can buy a bit more based on the structure of that offense, and his own ankle injuries have probably limited him from running around too much, and the ball was really trying to come out quick. But yeah, just on Pickett, the numbers themselves the most impressive, and the volume the most, even more than Malik Willis. So really, to me, eye-opening numbers.
And I think one of the things too, you can look at the completion percentage of 21 to 30, 21 and 36, and you say, okay, that's all fine and dandy. Were these 3-yard pass attempts? And the answer to that's no. I mean, he had an average air yard distance of almost 13 yards on these pass attempts. So that's not shabby in and of itself right there. Now, I do add on when I was charting these, whereas Sports Info Solutions does not, a throw into the end zone. If the ball's at the 10-yard line, and if the quarterback was to throw the pass into the very back of the end zone, technically that would be 19 air yards, right? Because you got the you go from the line of scrimmage of the 10-yard line to the goal line, that's 10, and another 9 to the back of the end zone. It's 19 air yards. Well, Sports Info Solutions and most of these stats companies only do it from yard marks on the field. So a 10-yard touchdown pass to the back of the end zone would only give Kenny Pickett 10 air yards. Well, I made sure I did due diligence and added in the extra yards in the end zone too, so I could get kind of a truer number there on top of it. And all of that, all together on these 36 attempts had an average passing yard distance from the line of scrimmage, mind you, of 13 yards. So that's in it. That's another impressive aspect about these 36 pass attempts. Once again, 6 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? And 0 interceptions. You look at a guy like Malik Willis. Of the 30 attempts that he had, he only completed 14 of them, so not even 50%. I don't have the average air yard distance, but I would imagine it was up there as well too. 2 TDs, 3 interceptions for him on those 30 attempts there, and so I think just if you're the stat book scout Kenny Pickett alone on these 36 attempts, you'd come away impressed there. But that's obviously not why we do this. We want to see the actual plays, and I take it you've looked at all of them, Alex, or most of them.
Mm-hmm. Most of them. I was stumbling through them last night, and I watched it. I kind of felt this and saw this and talked about this in the pre-draft process. But his ability to keep his eyes downfield while he's moving. A lot of these quarterbacks want to take off and run, and Pickett has enough mobility to do that. But he really is able to still be technically sound and throw with a good base overall, even whenever he's off platform and on the move. And I wanted to find in the examples you showed some going to his left, because on tape in the games that I watched, it was almost always to his right. I wanted to see if he ever did it to his left, and I found with the Miami game he did it. I think it was at least another game that I saw that he did it. And so
Tennessee, right?
Tennessee. Yeah, I think it was Tennessee. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously most quarterbacks are going to be more comfortable going to their right-handed quarterbacks, but you at least saw him make some of those plays moving to the other side. And to me, that was encouraging to see.
That was something I was looking forward as well too. And by the way, I mean the play against Miami and the play against Tennessee, both really, really impressive plays.
Right. They weren't just like easy dump offs. Guy was wide open, like they were on target money throws. Right.
And another thing that I track here, if you're listening and you look at this chart, you'll see the column marked area, and there'll be a number 1 through 5 in that area. Let me map that out real quick to the listeners here. I divide the field up into 5 parts. Okay. Middle of the hash marks on the college field are obviously a little bit wider than the marks on the NFL field. But that being said, between the hash marks is 3. So that would be the truest middle of the field. From each of the numbers, whether you're let's say if you're looking at the field, the left side from the numbers to the farthest hash mark on that side would be area number 2. Outside the numbers to the left would be area number 1, and then you flip it over for the other side. So from the outside hash, outside middle of the field hash to the numbers would be area number 4, and then outside the numbers on the right side of the field would be area 5. That way you can look at these area numbers and know right away what area of the field the football was thrown to. And that's something I've kind of done for a while now when it comes to the charting, because I think it kind of paints a better picture if you're not looking at the tape, what actually happened on the field. Now, Pickett on these 36 pass attempts used all areas of the field. In total, 9 of these 36 attempts went between the numbers on the field, with just 1 of those going between the hash marks overall that we talked about, number 3 being the middle of the field. The other 27, which, I mean, it makes sense, right? You're running from pressure, probably either to your right or the left. So your throw more than likely is going to be outside the numbers to whatever area of the field that you're throwing to, especially if you're on the move and don't have time to reset your feet. The other 27 of the 36 were thrown outside the numbers, 20 of those going to the right side outside the numbers, and 7, which isn't a bad number overall, going to the left side outside the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wouldn't expect to see a lot of 3s on there, and I'm almost glad I don't, because that'd be a lot of maybe cross body type throws to be riskier for him to do. So the numbers overall look encouraging. Again, you watch the tape, you see some of the accuracy the accuracy on the move to me was a really impressive trait. And again, just looking at this thing big picture, we talk about a lot of the situational football with Kenny Pickett. I know you're going to focus on, I think, third down red zone stuff here in the future. Look at some of these numbers. Pickett seems to be consistently the top quarterback when it comes to at least that box score test.
Now, some people will bring up, well, why has he got so many of these compared to another quarterback? All right. In other words, and there is some discussion, I think, to be had on the actual tape. Does sometime he bail out of what look to be okay situations? In other words, or is he having to go off script more times than not by his own doing?
I think that's accurate. That's one thing I noted. I want to see him be able to show a bit better pocket presence. And I think the PFF number, he had an average snap to throw time of 3.125 seconds. So it was the second highest in this class, only better than Malik Willis, who ran around so much and had probably some hyperinflated plays where he's holding on the ball for 6-7 seconds at a time. So there probably is a bit of that double-edged sword when it comes to these numbers.
There is one thing. He has a great presence, like you said, and I think he shows great athleticism out on. It doesn't look all that unnatural to him when he is having to avoid a pass rush and move outside. And man, the touchdown that I used for a screenshot for the actual post in and of itself is a touchdown against Virginia that goes to the back of the end zone to a wide open, I think, Jordan Addison on that play there. Just the whole, he really flows on that play, and he's throwing on the move and up in the air, and that play really kind of stuck out to me, just how kind of smooth he is making plays off script outside the pocket, if you will. Now, look, Ben Roethlisberger made a early part of a career of making off schedule plays. Patrick Mahomes is making himself quite the career early on of making those kind of throws. Dak Prescott is another one that can make these kind of plays. I think the only kind of pushback here overall, it goes back to some of the negatives on Kenny Pickett during the pre-draft process, and that is overall processing speed for him. And he's not going to be able to have an average throw time of 3 seconds at the NFL level, right? I mean, that's just not going to. That's something that you just can't have happen, because he's going to get crushed. I mean, you're going to talk about a 50 sack season and everything that goes along with that. He just is not going to be able to get away with that at the NFL level. So he's going to have to sharpen up his snap to throw time, which means he's going to have to sharpen up his reads. I would expect right out of the chute with him, he's going to be given, a lot easier kind of views and reads, and it's not going to be that expansive right out of chute with him. I would think that there's probably going to be introduced to a little bit more heavier RPOs with him, stuff that you've written about naturally designed boots with him, that kind of stuff there. But there are some instances in at least these 36 total pass attempts of him, either probably and not having the all 22 attached to it makes it a little bit harder, but probably missing some open receivers here and maybe holding on to the football, and in other words, creating his own situation where he has to extend a play.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that and I agree, but whenever I watch the tape, we talk about how pro ready he was, and I go through the tape and I see this guy making some of the reads and deciphering coverages and things like that, and it didn't feel like he was missing things too often. So I do wonder, and I'm not saying the number's inaccurate, but I wonder what is the cause between him having that long snap to throw time. Now, one question I do have, and I forget the numbers on this, he didn't throw a ton of RPOs at Pitt, or did he? Where did he rank in terms of other quarterbacks and RPOs?
Yeah, I don't think he was nearly as high, was he? We'll have to find those numbers.
He wasn't at the top. I know it was.
Was it Football Outsiders that had those?
We had this discussion like 2 weeks ago, and
I
I
know.
forget what the answer was. I mean, Corral was like at the top because he ran such an RPO heavy. I think Bailey Zappi was number one, but we're not talking about him in this discussion. So obviously, in the RPO game, generally the ball's coming out extremely quick. It's a very quick read. It's a catch and release kind of thing where you're gonna maybe fake the handoff to the running back, read that mesh point, and get the ball out within a second and a half. And so I just wonder if some of the lack of heavy RPO usage for Pickett causes his overall snap to throw number to go up because the other guys are running so many RPOs. I mean, Ben, got the ball out quickly in a lot of circumstances last year, last 2 years. But one reason why his snap to throw was consistently among the quickest in football was because of how much this team ran RPOs. And so that kind of skews the number because when you're running 30% RPOs and the ball's coming out in a second and a half consistently, it's going to bring that number down overall. So again, 3.1 seconds is still too long by really any metric, but I do wonder if just Pickett running fewer RPOs kind of gave him a disadvantage when it comes to some of those numbers.
Yeah, I'm not finding any. I think Football Outsiders down for you or no?
I can look. I mean, if it's down for you, it's probably down for me as well. It looks like it's not going to load. Yeah, it might be down. So, but that's a thought in my head about, because again, when you watch the tape, just putting the numbers aside, did you feel like he was missing a lot of reads? I mean, I felt like again he was bailing sometimes a little too quickly, which is one issue. But in terms of just missing reads,
yeah, I mean, you're talking about 36 plays here, so I didn't feel
like not even just this, but just overall in his entire tape. Just
not overall. The biggest thing I think with him is kind of sometimes bailing on these pockets is what stuck out to me. Just in general, overall.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then again, when you do see him leave the pocket, and it's a little less of an issue when you're kind of out in space, but that ball's dropping down, it's going to create a bit longer of a windup. And obviously, if you do kind of get in a muddier situation, somebody chasing you backside, you want to protect that football. So to me, that ball security in all circumstances, but especially whenever he's kind of navigating the pocket, is a big problem because once he starts to run and move, that ball starts to drop and swing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes into the ball security aspect that we've already kind of looked at and all like that. But look, you can't, we talked about through the pre-draft process about Mike Tomlin, really dating back to last year about Mike Tomlin wanting him, a quarterback with a little bit more mobility. And, we talked about extending the play. And one of the things about Malik Willis moving forward into Malik's future was, man, how is he going to be when it comes to being able to extend the play? You can't in one breath say, man, he's bailing on some stuff, and why is his broken play percentage maybe a little bit higher there, and on the same breath not acknowledge, man, there's some nice extended plays in his tape here. In other words, you can't smack the hand, when you're calling for wanting a quarterback with the ability to extend the play. And just in this 2021 tape alone, and just based on these 36 plays alone, it's an impressive set of plays. There's no way around it.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. Again, the ability to keep your eyes downfield, to still overall throw with a good base, even if you're not, the traditional 3-step drop, hitch, and throw, but to be able to keep your shoulders square and be accurate on the move. I thought just overall his accuracy on the move in those situations to me was the most impressive part.
Right now, we'll look more into. Any other main kind of takeaways from this?
I think it's the biggest thing. I think again,
did it open your eyes on anything?
Well, it opened my eyes on how much more he did it than the other quarterbacks. That was to me maybe the most eye-popping thing because I watched him on tape, do it and do it well, rolling to his right. I mean, had some really good accurate throws on the move, but see how much more he did it and how much better he looked compared to all the other quarterbacks is the most eye-opening thing that I learned in this study.
I think I think he moves a lot more fluid than maybe I kind of envisioned just in the totality of tape study on him. Once again, I think there's several of these throws. And look, he had a couple of drops in here too. That's another thing I did not hit. There's like 3 drops in there. So You factor those into him already. What I say, he completed 21 of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 29 catchable of 36 attempts.
Yeah,
24 on target.
Right. So
what's the difference between on target and catchable, though?
That's a great question. A great question for sports.
Okay.
I guess it just means it's a catchable ball to some degree.
I guess on target means like it's right on the money, and catchable is
Right.
like it's within his framework. He just would have to adjust for it. I guess it's the difference.
Right. So, I mean, if you look at the drops alone, which I think I have charted in there, 3 in total there, you add those onto his 21. I mean, 24 of 36. And especially, it's one thing if you're talking about a 4-yard pass here, but we're talking about, an average depth of throw of around 13 yards. So that makes it impressive. And I guess what also makes it impressive is it's not top heavy in that number either, because his longest air yards was 27 air yards, and that was the touchdown against Virginia. And then the shortest attempt was 2 air yards, and that came against Miami on these 36 throws as well too. So, look, I mean, I think they've got himself, and you don't want to run in a situation where he's having to extend plays 9 plays a game, right? But you do have a quarterback here that at least in his senior season or his last season, 2021, really showed the ability to extend plays and make something of those extended plays.
Right. It's not that you want to have him do it 10 times a game, but whenever he needs to do it, it seems like he's capable of doing it. And as Tom likes to talk about, for young quarterbacks, that mobility can be a factor. When things do break down, things will break down. When you do miss a read or you just, make a bad play, you have that mobility kind of bail yourself out. And it's not always about him being able to take off and run and, bust a 20-yard game, but, move the pocket and change the launch point and make a good, accurate throw on the run. So I think that will suit him well in all stages of his career, but I think especially early in his career.
I think the same on that. So, all right. Any other? I really enjoy doing that. I hate the process of having to try to go locate each play sometimes.
Yeah,
but I've gotten pretty
fun.
good at doing that over the years. I can go right to the tape. I mean, I got a feel for where to put the mouse to go to a certain time stamp on a game. So, but
that's a fun game I play too. How close can I get to the actual timestamp on my first click?
You do this long enough with the TV tape, you get a pretty good feel of it, I think, overall there. But I hope people enjoyed that aspect. A good 6 hours went into that yesterday.
Yeah, no, fantastic work. And so when you get back, the next thing you'll do with Pickett, you're talking red zone, right? Or you're talking third down, or what's next on the list?
Yeah, I don't know which way. I haven't really, me, I'll decide. I'll go one way, and then all of a sudden I'll go a different way on there. So I'm not totally sure. I might look at some of these broken plays, see if I can get some broken plays and then runs by him,
Okay.
In other words, see his kind of overall scrambling ability. I'm trying to pull that up right now here to see if I can get something on let's see, broken play, Pittsburgh. I don't know if that gives it for the quarterback scrambles though. I think that it only gives up. Oh, wait. They do have scramble. This general runs. Let me go if I can get to.
I'm sure there's a way to figure it out.
Yeah, scramble pressure, scramble coverage. Yeah, they got a lot of different ways. So the thing is, I don't want to have each contextualization have much more than say around 35, 36 plays.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand.
So I'm trying to dive into very specific elements, like what would be even doing third down and 7 or more yards produces, I think, a number of like, I don't know, over 50, Sure. So
well, I was thinking I would love to see third down red zone. I don't know how many, what the number is there. I'm guessing it's probably in that 30 to 40 range, but I think third down red zone, money situation, I think is such a critical component of quarterback play.
All right. Maybe that's the next area. And you're talking all drop backs, right?
Yeah, well, that or at least all pass attempts. That might shrink the number a little bit for you because it might be a little bit larger. I mean, I don't think it's going to be 12 pass attempts in those situations, but I think that would be a good next study.
All right. That might be next on there though. But anyway,
Right.
my general takeaway overall, big picture takeaway was I was impressed by these 36 plays.
You've done so much research in the Pickett since, and I know it's a little maybe bias or hope in this. Maybe, I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, but do you feel better about the Pickett selection after going through all this tape?
Yeah, and there's a level of bias in there now. The
Sure,
after the
that's what I'm
fact,
saying.
the after
Yeah,
fact,
you want to tell yourself it was a good pick. Yeah.
your child, at this
Sure.
point. I thought about this laying in bed last night too. How do you go from where your initial thoughts were on to diving deep in some of these aspects here of it. I am still concerned about the arm strength. Okay, but maybe today's NFL, if the kid can throw it 45 yards, that's enough, no matter how he throws it. I still think there are instances, though, in an NFL game where you've got to be able to have the respect to have two safeties playing deep, because it opens up so much of the running game. So my arm strength concerns about Pickett are still there. Just a general processing stuff that at times the throw scares the living hell out of me, man.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to be able to almost take him? Because look, Ben had it too, right? And Ben, but he's not built like Ben to take those kind of those kind of hits that Ben took. Ben could stand back there and take that kind of abuse weekend every Sunday and hold the football and run around and do those kind of things. I don't think Kenny Pickett's built to do that. And if he does take those kind of hits, it's going to wear on him real quick over time there. And then you don't want him to become like the car kid with the Texans early on in his career, just taking all those hits like he hit there. So they're got to do something with him, especially his first couple of years where he doesn't have to think as much, I don't think. And then obviously defenses are going to really quickly catch on to kind of what they're doing, and he's going to have to morph through his first 3 years. It goes back to one of the things that I think that I've said about him all along. For him to be a successful franchise quarterback in the NFL, I think he's got to become uber cerebral. He has to become really a Tom Brady. I like his pocket. I think he moves okay in the pocket overall. I mean, I like some of the deeper that I get into his tape, I like some of the pocket movement that he has. It feels kind of drilled into him. He's that whole processing, that internal clock thing, I think has got to get a lot better with him, or else he's going to have to be making a lot of these plays outside of the pocket.
So what does pro-ready mean? If Pickett was the most pro-ready quarterback, it seemed to signal that was because of the processing and the progressions and reading a defense. But if that isn't his strength, then his strength?
It's not so much, you see these kids come out, right? Their air raid, their spread, their RPO. I think he's got aspects that allows him to have played in a lot of different of these concepts. No, I just worry about the actual processing of what he sees. Sometimes.
Right, well, that's the most important thing. I mean,
how many times do you see? He's another one. I think that he's more a thrower of a football instead of a passer of the football.
And you define the difference as?
I just, how many times do I'd like to see him throw open more guys, I guess, than what I've seen. And maybe as I drill through some of this, I'll see more aspects of it. Him, instead of him throwing to an open receiver, throwing open a receiver,
Yeah, no, I get that. I think most,
Ben went through it. A lot of quarterbacks go through it. So it's just whether or not they're able to get over that hump. And that's what makes the quarterback position so damn hard to decipher here. I think the further you get into his film, though, you start seeing the limitations of a guy like Corral, the limitations of a guy like Howell, maybe not so much Ritter, but I think the deeper you get into Pickett's tape, the more value you see in the accuracy. I think if Ritter had better overall, a lot better overall accuracy, Ritter might have been the second quarterback, or might have been another first round or at least early second round quarterback in this thing.
Sure. No, I understand that. Yeah, I think with Pickett, I think the big reason, as you mentioned, why that snap to throw time was high was because he would bail on some of those clean pockets, and because I think he was so comfortable and used to moving out of the pocket and throwing on the run. And again, there's a lot of value in that. We talk about that all the time, but whenever you don't have to, stay in the pocket, because that's where you're going to make most of your plays from. So just and I can't figure out exactly why he's doing that, other than maybe just comfortable moving out of the pocket. But to me, that's the number one thing I want to see him work on, that and the ball security, the carriage of the football.
Look, I mean, of all the quarterbacks in this class before the draft, the one that you could see hitting the field first was Pickett, right?
Right, but if we say that in one breath, the other breath we say, well, we have to keep it really simple for him, and we have to really distill this thing down for him.
I wouldn't put too much on his plate, is what I'm saying. Yeah, I think if you have a very distinct plan and kind of what what you laid out with how he fits into Matt Canada offense and all, especially out of the chute with him,
Right, I get that, but he's your guy. And if he's ready to start, then he has to be ready to handle some of those more complex things. You want to obviously do what he's comfortable with, and just make a ton of boots and things like that. But if you like him this much, and if you're going to call him your starter, then you got to act like he's your starter.
I mean, a 3rd and 7 is 3rd and 7, right? I mean, you got to have to be able to read.
Keep running boots on 3rd and 7.
You're going to have to be able to read what you're showing and know that you're probably going to have to go direction A, B, or C based on what you read and all like that. So, I mean, he comes off as, I think he's going to get further concepts, even more. I just think he's just got to become his anticipation at the NFL level is what I think is going to set him, be the make or break thing for him.
I think that's fair. I think that's true for a lot of quarterbacks, but yeah, I think right. And if he's not ready at that point, then you don't start him. You have a guy like Trubisky where you can start him, so it's not like it's pick it or bust. So, but I think once he becomes a starter, again, he's not going to run the show the way that Penn ran the show, when the huddle is going to be a lot more restrictive and things like that. But at some point, you got to let that guy play football.
Is he ever going to be known as the rocket arm type guy? No, but I mean, I don't think so. But I think his level of football IQ maturity and cerebralness is really going to be the thing that's going to set him pass or fail with this thing.
Yeah, I think the maturity's there. And again, I think I harp on so much. I know it's an intangible thing. It might sound a little floaty, but the leadership, and who is going to be the leader of this very young team, this very young offense in particular, you really don't have those guys right now. So who's going to really step up and have that presence and command that attention and be able to run the show and rally when things get tough? Someone has to be that guy, and hopefully Pickett can do that.
And I don't think, once again, I think the deeper you get into this stuff too, I mean, I don't think he's up to that big of a task in chasing down Mitch Trubisky, No,
I think it's entirely a winnable job for him, but I think it really truly is an actual quarterback competition, and his team does not know who's going to be the starter, and it will largely be based off the play of the summer, because what else do you go off of? Trubisky's brand new, has barely played football last year, and Pickett's obviously, rookie in the league. So I think what you do this summer, and that's why these guys need as many reps as possible. That's why Mason Rudolph's going to be holding the clipboard a lot this summer, because these other guys, they need the time.
What did you think about the other post I did on just the raw stats, on the stats with context on the career adjusted completion percentages beyond 9 yards?
Well, first of all, you threw me off there because I'm so used to seeing contextualization. I was like, what stats with context? I want contextualization.
Mm-hmm. And all of this is a byproduct of Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin talking so much about accuracy,
All right.
So what better way to look at raw accuracy than using adjusted completion percentage, which takes into account drops and batted balls and throwaways, takes all that noise, if you will, out of it, and then gives you a more raw completion percentage that way to work off of. And what better way to then use that stat than to use it for passes of 10 to 19 yards past the line of scrimmage, or passes 20 or more yards past the line of scrimmage. Now, I was able to use first and second round quarterbacks going back the last, I think, like 4 or 5 years here, along with this year's top 5 quarterbacks in the class, along with the other 2 quarterbacks on the Steelers roster in Mitch Trubisky and Mason Rudolph, because I wanted to provide a kind of a large. Everybody says, "Well, Dave, you gave us those stats and look good, but how do they match up? Where's the context in those?" So that's why I used the names in there, the college career stats of the people that I chose to have some sort of context there. What's funny, and I didn't know how this would play out. You throw all these names in the blender there, and right in a row, when you look at the 10 to 19 yard area of throws, now this is career college throws, pass attempts of 10 to 19 yards, and looking at the adjusted completion percentage of that, right in a row, Mitch Trubisky, 64.6%. Kenny Pickett, 64.2%, and Mason Rudolph, 64%. they're and folks, that was not planned. I was, and then 2 spots ahead of him was Dwayne Haskins at 65.2% there. So it almost feels like kind of maybe I don't want to say a baseline, but it feels like 61 to 62%, about 62%. Feels like, 64% almost feels like a baseline with the Steelers if they were to use adjusted completion percentage on 10 to 19 yard throws. I know they don't, but if they did, it feels like that would kind of be the baseline on there on them. Now, you look at those 10 to 19 yard throws, and for college, Josh Allen comes in lower than all those guys at 62%. Sam Darnold, 61.5%. Desmond Ridder, way down there, 60.4%. And Malik Willis, fit the bottom of all the quarterbacks that I used in this study. Malik Willis came in last at 57% on 10 to 19 yard throws adjusted completion percentage.
Yeah, really interesting numbers there. And yeah, it feels like, nothing up your sleeve on the quarterbacks for Pittsburgh all being grouped together there. But that is funny how that turned out. It's interesting to see
your 2 rawest quarterbacks, Trey Lance and Malik Willis, are at the bottom of this list, 59.3% and 57%. That jumped right out at me right away there. The other thing that jumped out at me is your boy Mac Jones.
I was going to say, this is some validation for me, both on the 20-yard plus and the 10 to 19.
Yeah, 76.9% adjusted. Only Justin Fields had a higher adjusted completion percentage on 10 to 19 yard throws during his college career on an adjusted number there. Baker Mayfield's in 3rd place at 75.3%. Probably not too terribly surprising, Matt Corral. You talk about Matt Corral's accuracy quite a bit during a pre-draft process, 69.3%. Now, a lot of those are those one read RPO slants, but it is what it is.
Well, these are 10 to 19 yards, right? So, I mean, you aren't getting a lot of slants that are at that depth.
Digs.
It's it's probably less RPO based than some of the other throws would be.
I know a lot of those ain't outside the numbers based on that, though. Sam Howell's another one who got a good feel, probably had some nice accurate, throws within there. Joe Burrow, 66.7% at LSU in there. But once again, I think the thing that stuck out, at least in the 10 to 19 yard throws, was Mac Jones right there up at the top. The Steelers quarterbacks kind of all jumbled together in the middle there, and the 2 very experienced small school kids in Trey Lance and Malik Willis at the bottom. Now, 20 plus yard throws. Another thing that sticks out, a little feather in your cap there, Alex, 62.3%. for Mac Jones. Now, is this a byproduct of Alabama? You know, the talent that he played with, the people that he, I don't know, but he is right there at the top, and it's not close to second place. Baker Mayfield, of the names used in this study, 58%. So there's a 4.3% gap between Mac Jones at the top of this list and then Baker Mayfield at second. Mason Rudolph high on this list, not overly surprising based on the kind of the offense and maybe in the defenses that he threw against in there. You do have to go on down the list a little bit there to get to guys like Kenny Pickett and Justin Herbert right there. Kenny Pickett, 45.5%, not awful at all for that number overall. You look at the three names right in a row there in the percentages. Kenny Pickett, 45.5% on 20-yard throws or more. Justin Herbert, 45.2%. And Josh Allen at Wyoming, 44.2%. And then Sam Darnold next on the list at 43.1% there. Now, this was a place where Malik Willis was ranked a little bit higher than Kenny Pickett here at 48.8%. Even Matt Corral, not bad, 49.3% on 20-yard or more throws there. So I just wanted to, I don't know, the whole preface of the post centered around accuracy, right? And I didn't want to look at throws less than 10 yards because you would think that there's probably not going to be that huge of a gap. I don't think you're going to get as telling results overall the shorter you get closer to the line of scrimmage, right?
Sure.
But I thought this was a nice kind of subsection there. And once again, it shows that Kenny Pickett represented himself well, I think, overall in both these distances. It was the takeaway. Yeah,
I mean, it seems a bit more middle of the pack-ish, I guess, in both these numbers, but it's not terrible. I'm glad he's not at the bottom because you see some of these names and numbers at the bottom. The worst accuracy, you see Malik Willis, Trey Lance, Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Desmond Ridder, Jordan Love, Sam Darnold. The current NFL players, it's not exactly a who's who when you talk Darnold and Love and Lock and Jones and guys like that. Same with 20 plus. It's similar names of Jones, Trubisky. You do have Lamar Jackson, but it's a different situation with his ability to run. Josh Rosen, Jordan Love, Drew Lock, again, Darnold's there. So he's not in that tier, which is good to see. But it seems like it's a little bit more of a muddied result in terms of him being more or less middle of the pack compared to other quarterbacks.
Man, pretty eye-opening about Trey Lance. Now, you're only talking about one season, and what did he play, like 18, what was it, 17 games?
Yeah, 15 games or something.
Something
one
crazy.
Exhibition game this last year there. So, and who the heck knows what kind of NFL player he'll be. I mean, he sat for almost all last year, so it's hard to even determine, can he progress? Can he get better? It's just limited information to go off of. You
want to talk about a projection on a player, man. That's a kid, and once again, he didn't play, much of any his rookie season. That's you look at these numbers and you kind of wonder, wow, that's a heck of a projection they did with this kid.
But you almost have to throw it out the window because the sample size is so small. 59 attempts. I mean, Daniel Jones 157, Trubisky, who was only a one-year starter, had 95. Lamar over 200. I mean, 59 attempts, 20 plus, and for the 10 to 19 Lance with 86, Daniel Jones 236, Drew Lock 328. I mean, it's almost statistical noise to even make a hard determination off of
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a hell of a damn projection you have to make off him based off the small section that he tape that he had at North Dakota. Makes you feel like he might not should have been a first round pick.
Yeah, and a third overall, and then the 49ers trade up to get him. I mean, there's a lot going on there. So they better hit on that kid. That's all I'll say. Mm-hmm. So anyway, good work there. Really good study, and I think I know the feedback's been fantastic, so I think everyone appreciates the work you're putting in.
And back to the original question, I mean, with the bias in there, yeah, I feel better about the pick, at this point. But I mean, there's more digging to do and all like that. And how much of that actually is bias in there? Once again, it goes back. I am worried about arm strength. I'm worried about processing and stuff like that. But I think if he can handle the cerebral part of it, I think that's going to be the biggest element with him. With Kenny Pickett is can he essentially become kind of the next Tom Brady from an X's and O's standpoint, though, because I think that will really make him an even better quarterback.
Right. And then in 2050, we'll see Kenny Pickett on Fox making $30-something million a year to be the analyst.
Look, even if you get to the point where you're having serious conversations at the first couple of years that, man, we need to extend this kid, even before, after his third season, that's a fantastic problem to have. If you get past his third season and you're wondering, well, do we need to wait to see what this fourth year is and all like that? We should know with his experience, because obviously he's going to play as a rookie at some point. So,
you would think, yeah.
Is it going to be sooner rather than later is the only point. So, you get about, 10 games into the 2023 season. We should have a pretty good idea of Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I mean, with quarterbacks, because what people will do, they'll get that roller coaster ride whenever this guy does start playing. 1 week he plays well. Oh, it's a great pick. Next week he doesn't play as well. Oh, this is a concern. What does this mean? And I don't want to be on that roller coaster. I know Browns fans did that so much with Baker Mayfield. Really continued to do it, up through last year with him. So I like to take things in totality. There's going to be some hills and some valleys and growths and struggles and things like that. You want to kind of really let the whole season play out before you really try to make an evaluation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, he's going to have ups and downs, especially as a rookie season and on into that second season. Here's the thing that I've said too, that even if you hate the selection of it, I mean, just the exciting point of being a fan. This is something Steelers fans haven't gone through in a long time. First round rookie quarterback that you get to see from the start. And I mean, heck, how old were you in 2004? I mean, you're going to be able to see, I mean, and be cognizant of the whole process here with Kenny Pickett, so that in of itself is exciting, I think. And even if you like the pick or you don't, I mean, at least you got to come into the with an open mind and let us play on the field, do the talking.
Yeah. Regardless of whether we feel good about the pick or not, none of that really matters anymore. It's about how we'll play, and that's the thing that will make anyone feel better or feel worse ultimately. So yeah, I was 11 years old when they took Ben in 2004, and so I've come a long way from writing down the Steelers picks on little yellow sticky notes. That's what I did, and so now I think I'm a little better equipped to watch the situation play out.
Kevin Colbert writes all 25 names down on an index card.
That's where he got it from. Took it from me. But yeah, good work and good studies, and I'm excited to see what you do in the future.
All right.
How did Brady get $375 million to be abroad? I mean, I get why he got that money because he's Tom Brady, but it's a little bit like the Mitch Hedberg, Mitch Hedberg?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A little bit of the joke of, you're a great chef. Can you farm? Like, it's a little bit of that where like Brady's a great quarterback, but is he going to be a great analyst? Some of those guys make the transition. Some of them don't, and never doing it before to get the bag like that. Nothing against him, good on him. But at Fox, that's a bit of a gamble in my opinion.
I tell you what, it's hard to envision him being the next Tony Romo style. Yeah. Tony Romo just generally excited, I think, for every game. He loves the game of football that much. I think he gets I think there's it's the old, I can't believe you're paying me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
The way I kind of wake up every morning, I have a hard time seeing Brady kind of as reserved as he is now being that guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Tom Brady's a funny dude. I think he's got a great kind of warped sense of humor, if you will, and all, but I do find it tough seeing him make that next jump and being good at it,
Yeah. I mean, we'll see, but it was a little surprising.
At some point, I mean, you don't need the money. I mean, why not just disappear? I know I would.
Yeah, if someone offered me $375 billion, I'd do whatever. But I just, can Brady critique people? Can he criticize people? That'll be maybe something we'll have to find out. Some of those guys kind of struggle with negative stuff. Everyone's good with the positive, but when you have to actually talk bad about a player, some guys are uncomfortable with it.
Okay, and that might be a possibility as well too. Yeah, that was a bit of a shocker. We'll see how that turns out.
I did a film room on George Pickens that went up this morning on Steelers Depot, and it's something that Mike Tomlin said. We talked about this, in the pre-draft process and once the pick was made, but Mike Tomlin talking about George Pickens and his, big guy with little guy body movements. And so what does that mean? I had some plays on the tape that I talked about this morning on Steelers Depot that just talked about his fluidity, some of the more nuance in his route running overall, and some of the explosive movements that he has that kind of separates him from being your typical, big receiver who doesn't move particularly well.
At some point, I'd like to get into more, after I get done with Pickett and drilling him down eight different ways. I'd like to get more into some different aspects of Pickens. Now, fortunately, you don't have a lot of targets to have to deal with overall there. But the more that you've watched him, look, we know the pie. He makes some fantastic catches, great body control, especially along the sideline there. One of the negatives I think that still sticks out with him that he's going to have to try to work on, he might not get much better at, is the double catching aspect. How many of those double catches will get knocked out of his hands, as opposed to the college level? That's one aspect. Is there any other aspect of George Pickens' game that you would deem, man, he's got to work on this? I mean, I think he's great at the top of the routes and sitting down, and he's going to have a lot of curls and a lot of comebacks in his future, because I think he just does such a great job of driving deep and dropping weight and then working back to the football that way for sure. And we all know his ability to get vertical, his ability to adjust his body and present a nice catch radius that way. But outside of maybe the double catches, let's focus on a negative with him.
Sure. Well, I think the biggest negative on him, even above the double catch, is his post catch. After the catch, he's got to be quicker upfield. He gets horizontal a bit. He doesn't, be able to explode and get upfield and get yards after the catch. So I think the biggest thing with George Pickens, if he is going to catch a bunch of hitch routes, which he probably will this year, is he's got to be quicker to the tuck once he makes the catch and take advantage of the more, yak opportunities he'll have.
Okay.
So that's to me the biggest thing with him. That I think double catches, and again, he's a 21-year-old who probably has to get a little bit stronger, add a bit more muscle. He's kind of got that longer, wiry-ish type frame, and it just has not played a lot of football. I mean, he didn't barely play last year, and so really he hasn't played last consistent football since 2020. And so I think it's going to be a learning curve there for a young guy trying to make that jump.
You absolutely can get this kid on the field to some degree in week one, right?
Yeah, I think you will. Again, I think there still is that learning curve people aren't thinking about too much right now that's going to exist for him, for a guy that, again, has not played a lot of football recently. But sure, I mean, week one a little bit, and I think he'll certainly be able to make an impact this rookie season.
And by the middle of the season, he should be getting a lot of reps in games.
Yeah, so had that video on Steelers Depot, shows different stuff, shows curls, shows some of the stuff he does to win vertically. But again, the ability to drop your hips, to create separation, to be able to break down and move just so fluidly is one of those things you typically see with smaller receivers. And for a big and really kind of a long, lanky dude like Pickens, you wouldn't expect him to move so fluidly the way that he does.
Okay, fair enough. That should be doing pretty good today on the site, huh?
I hope so. I haven't gotten to check any of the comments or anything, but hopefully it's informative. All right, Dave, anything else here you want to talk about? I think we covered the big things we wanted to discuss today.
All right, have we got all of it?
I believe so. Let's get to reader emails.
Wrangler has changed up their cargo shorts, man.
So I've heard. It's a big day. It's a sad day in the day, Brian.
Yeah, I'm not very happy about that at all. So yeah, that's I'm dealing with that today.
Oh, my heart goes out to you.
All right, thank you.
Aquafina bottles are now blue again. They changed them to white the one day.
We had this talk.
We had this talk.
I love that so many dysfunctions in my life are starting to show up in your life.
You love that? Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I love it as much as you.
Misery loves company, man.
Okay. Fair enough.
And yeah, they change, man. If they change like a label, like I'm real particular about, I'm real particular about everything now. My wife can attest to this now. And it's been this way for numerous years now. Like like that pizza quick sauce. Okay. It's just a plain pizza quick sauce. I don't want any onions in there. I don't want no chunks of tomatoes in there. I just want plain pizza quick sauce. I like the way it's flavored. It reminds me of going back to as a kid. If you remember the old maybe you don't, Chef Boyardee, pizza kits and all like that. I mean, I lived off of those things in the late 70s, early 80s. Mom, both parents worked, had to fend for yourself. At least you could make it home pizza and all like that. Well, that pizza sauce that they used to put in that kit, I've always kind of loved it and want things like it. Well, the Ragu pizza quick sauce now is along the same lines. Well, man, they just recently changed the label on that thing, and it makes it hard to pick out on the shelf because you think you're looking for a certain label, and B, you wonder, all right, they changed that. If they changed the internals, and even a crazier story than that, going back several years, we used to eat those old El Paso taco kits all the time. Absolutely love those things. Well, for a while there, they changed that the meat seasoning in there, and it smelled like feet, man. Bad. And I mean, you're talking about something that we would eat religiously every Friday for like years, and it just went to not eating it again. Well, thank God I think they changed that back and all like that. So we're back eating old El Paso taco kits again and all like that. But stuff like that can ruin my day. And I assume the water bottle's that way with you, huh?
Yeah, just people shouldn't change things. Everything is fine. Nothing is to be changed. Right. Stop trying. That's my philosophy.
Why do they want to come out with new and improved?
Ridiculous.
Everything's got to be now with new and improved, now with whatever. No, I didn't need it improved.
Right, it was good. We were in this together. Yep.
Stuff like that drives me crazy. All right. Enough for the dysfunction part of the show. Richard Jameson writes in, Colbert on drafting. The past few weeks, we have been praising Kevin Colbert for a remarkable career, but I have a question. He says, one way to evaluate draft picks, especially for the first round, is to see if they are good enough to extend beyond their rookie contracts. He says in the 8 years from 2013 to 2020, only one pick earned such an extension. 2017 TJ Watt, excluding 2018 Terrell Edmonds, whose contract expired before he came back. He says, does this tarnish Colbert's record at all?
Well, I mean, you're being obviously choosy about where you draw those lines. I look at Colbert's tenure overall over his entire career, and so those guys like Cam Heyward and Marquise Pouncey that you appear to be leaving out there. I don't think it overall tarnishes. I mean, there are certainly critiques of Colbert, and you could say the draft picks haven't been as successful in recent years as they once were, and that would probably be a fair, inaccurate statement to make. But I wouldn't say it tarnishes it. The only thing that would really tarnish it going forward is if Kenny Pickett wasn't the franchise quarterback, he just was a bust or whatever. That would be the thing that would probably, to a degree, ding Colbert's legacy.
I mean, I see where he's coming from in the what have you done for me lately, Kevin Colbert department.
Mm-hmm. I understand the point there. I mean, it's still that they've drafted well overall. But does that tarnish his legacy? I mean, that's the question.
I mean, look at Watt. I mean, Watt's going to be. I mean, he's. Look at all the look at all the Hall of Famers he's drafted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to hit on one guy, then it's good you hit on the literal Hall of Famer.
And then what? And what does he get for hitting on guys like James Harrison and
well, he's trying to say since 2012, I think was right. his line in the sand. But again, it's an arbitrary.
I think you still have to look at the totality of it all. I will tell you this. I mean, part of my bias wants to say that Kevin Colbert's a stone cold lock for the Hall of Fame, but then there's another part of me that says, man, I think he's right there. I think he's right there at the gates.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's a stone cold lock. I don't think that's close to being accurate.
That's where I'm at. I think he's right there at the gates. Now, if he hits on Kenny Pickett, if Kenny Pickett comes out and in these next couple of years and at least drives this team deep into the playoffs, I think that's enough to kick in the gate.
But how many GMs are in the Hall of Fame?
Not many, right?
I mean, yeah, it has to be very, very few. And are some of those like I don't know, George House, where it's like owner, GM, player. I mean, it'd be contributor status.
Right.
He would be. Yeah. So
right.
I mean,
and they drag their feet on that stuff too, on the contributor side of it.
they do. I think they're opening up the eligibility or something a little bit for this upcoming year. But I mean, it's not many. So could Colbert get in? Yeah, but I think if he does, it's going to be a long time. Like I think that's just a narrow path, even for the best GMs ever to actually get it.
Can you tell the story of the Pittsburgh Steelers from 2000 on without Kevin Colbert? Without talking about Kevin Colbert?
No, I don't think you can. But will other voters recognize that fact is the question. Because they'll think about Ben and they'll think about Tomlin. They'll think about all those other guys before they think about it. Partially because Kevin Colbert is such a low profile guy. Like he's just so easy to kind of forget in the moment because he's very humble and no ego and just let those other guys get the credit. And that's admirable, but it kind of hurts him in this sense.
Yeah, he blends in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Charles Austin writes in, hello again, Alex and Dave. Can you expand upon the relationship between Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin? More specifically, we often hear about Colbert's draft success. I'm curious about the relationship between Tomlin and Colbert as it relates to decisions about draft picks, contract extensions, etc. I had often assumed there was a collaboration between the staff on such topics. Are they ultimately Kevin's decision? Any insight would be appreciated, man. Charles, I wish I could give you 100%. Answer on that, which way I know. I will tell you this. I think Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin have developed quite the right hand, left hand kind of relationship with each other over the years. I think they kind of know what each other kind of looks for. And they've kind of, I think, probably morphed into kind of on the football side of things into one thing. I don't think Tomlin gets caught up in the business end of it and all. I think he leaves all that stuff for Colbert and Con and that aspect of it. I would like to think to some degree that they have talks about players that they like or open to both drafting instead of Kevin Colbert saying, here's your groceries, go cook.
Yeah, if you ask Tomlin and Colbert, they'll always say, and they have always said, it's a collaborative process. It's a decision. They come together. It's not one man pulling rank or saying we're taking them and kind of dragging the other guy along. And these things, these decisions aren't made on draft day. They're made in the days and weeks leading up to draft day with the whole scouting department. You put your board together and things like that. So it's not on draft day is the easy part. They talk about they were on the clock for 15 seconds with Kenny Pickett because that was their guy. They knew it was their guy. That was already determined and decided. And so there wasn't anything to discuss. Now, as I've gone through my Kevin Colbert ranking all of his draft picks, I think part 2 came out yesterday. Part 3 will come out tomorrow. There are instances where you hear stories about maybe either Colbert or more often the head coach, Bill Cowher or Mike Tomlin, wanting to get a guy. For example, with the pick of Nathaniel DB in, I think that was 2004 or 2006, he wanted an outside linebacker. So he kind of got an outside linebacker. I know that with the Jason World selection, Sean Lee was the higher ranked player on the team's board. Mike Tomlin really wanted Jason Worlds, so they took Worlds over Lee. And so there are moments where I'm sure one guy kind of has a bit more pull. Probably times where Colbert's kind of gotten his way on guys as well. But generally speaking, in terms of what Colbert and Tomlin will say, it really truly is a collaborative process. And I believe that considering how long they work together and how healthy that relationship is and was.
I agree.
All right.
I sure wish Kevin Colbert would write a book sometime.
Me too. I don't count on it though.
Right.
Don't think he's
Jeff Berg writes in, undrafted free agents. Hello, I saw the article on Steelers Depot site showing the contracts for the undrafted free agents. Are they always 3-year contracts? Yes, Jeff, they are always 3-year contracts. What are the nature of the contracts? Okay. In simple terms, they're the minimum base salaries for the 3 years of the deal. Varying sizes of signing bonuses is really the only difference when it comes to these contracts over the years, really for forever, for as long as I can remember. Really, that's the only difference. And as Alex and I have talked over the years, they don't go out of their way to pay high signing bonuses. That's for sure. They'll range. I think they've ranged from $25,000 on down to $1,000 with signing bonuses with these players over the years. So that's really the only differences in them is the amount of the signing bonuses. He says, I assume they can be cut at any time and only get paid if they make the practice squad. He says, yeah, look, the player obviously keeps the signing bonus. That's the only thing that's guaranteed in the Steelers undrafted player contracts there. So if they don't make the 53, the contract is terminated. And at that point, if they sign the kid to the practice squad, it's obviously at a much reduced practice squad going rate at that time. He says if they get signed to the 53, do they get signed to a different contract? No. The only difference is if they make the 53, they get to keep their contract as is. There is no new contract, on making the 53-man roster. It's just not terminated. They get to keep their current contract. So that's the difference in there. He says, thank you for the continued excellence. Anything to add there, Alex?
I would just say one comment and one question. It's a very minor thing, but during the offseason, during their OTAs and mini camps, they get a per diem, correct? Of some small sum that they get per day for that.
Yeah, for the OTAs, and that works into the off-season workout bonus placeholder amount. That's what is it this year? Teams are charged. It is $849,600. $849,600 is the placeholder amount that teams are charged as a CBA mandated workout bonus charge. And what that consists of is eligible, and I don't think draft picks. I don't think the rookies get the per diem.
Really? Why would they not get the per diem
in there? Because I think it's all kind of budgeted into. Hold on here. I'm gonna have to make me pull this up in the CBA.
One more rabbit hole to go down. No, right. I mean they don't get a per diem. I mean everyone should get a per diem. They're
in there in that cafeteria and all. They get cafeteria food.
Well, so do the veterans that are getting the per diem. They're getting the same thing. They're all rowing the same boat.
Let's see if I can pull it.
Unless it's some sort of incentive to get the veterans to show up. Though I don't think $100 million player needs $400 a day to.
Yeah, the number's like $200 something, I think, right, for the OTA sessions. Let me see if I can find placeholder amount.
They don't even get a per diem. Then what the heck is the union doing? I mean, can you just give these players anything? That just seems surprising to me.
I don't make the rules. Let's see. Let me go to
we just investigate them while on the podcast.
Article 13, Section 5. Let's see. The league charged all 32 teams $849,600. That's the figure is determined by multiplying 90 players by $295 per day, and then by 32 because there's 32 organized team activities section.
So 90 players, so they should all get.
Right, but that's a placeholder for all teams. And I think it says at the conclusion of the program, but no later than August 15th, this charge will be adjusted based upon the amounts actual paid to players who participate in the all-season program. At that time, the amount paid to each player will be charged, blah, blah, blah.
Right, and that's referring to, let's say a guy doesn't show up, 3 guys don't show up for OTAs, you get reimbursed for that.
Right. And then also for the other players that might have just standard workout bonuses would supersede that, I think, in that. And I don't think the Steelers have much to worry about that. I thought there was something else about daily amounts paid to players for any workouts or classroom instruction pursuant to the blah, blah, blah. I thought there was something in here about rookies not getting it. Being eligible for that.
You may be right. I mean, I have no knowledge. I just always assume that if you're attending, you get paid the per diem, as all the veterans do.
Yeah, I'll have to, unless they've changed this. I thought at one point the rookies did not qualify for this.
Okay. Sorry, Tiff, no vacation.
Or draft pick. Yeah. Anyway, I'll drill that down there, but that's where the whole placeholder amount comes in, and that's why it's 800 because they take it by 90 players. They take it by $200 whatever dollars per day, and then you times it by the number of off-season workout days that there are, and then the league adjusts that later on in the off-season after they get the true count of who attended, who didn't attend, who was eligible for it, all that kind of noise there.
The second part I was going to ask in terms of the question of, let's say an undrafted free agent or even a draft pick, say that, one of those guys, they get cut and signed to the practice squad and then come back to the 53 a couple weeks later. How different does that contract look compared to what they originally?
Yeah, it's shorter length. I think it's what I think it becomes like 2 years then at that point.
Because that's how they take the path of exclusive free agents. Like that's the only way that you can become an exclusive free agent now, basically, right?
Right now, I think generally it's 2 years with those guys. Yeah.
Okay. And then how does the futures deal work? Does that become a different contract if they make the team? A guy that was on a futures contract?
No, futures means it just doesn't start until the new league year starts. So that's why it's term futures. But those are generally 3 years, I think.
Okay. Are they? All right. Gotcha.
Because I think the players at that point are usually 1 year players and not rookies. So
right.
I think there are stipulations on that as well, too.
Okay. Good deal. Makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Christine Bond, quarterback, recall before free agency. There's a lot of talk that Tomlin did not want a rookie quarterback to start. That obviously coming from Jay Glazier. Now at Pickett, all the talk is about if he will start in week 1. Was Tomlin blowing smoke then or now? Because Pickett is a 5-year college player and deemed most NFL ready. Is he somehow not a rookie? I think Pickett should sit at least the first 4 to 6 games. Christine Bond writes, and then if he is deemed really NFL ready, he is a candidate to start. I think if he's ready, I think ready if you see it. Plain and simple. If it's close between him and Trubisky, I go with the rookie, to be honest with you. But I think it when you see it, whether or not he is ready to start. I don't think they should put a cap on him as being like they did with Ben, because they were right out of the chute. Ben's not playing as a rookie. Right. Now, obviously, injuries played a role in that and all, but I don't think you need to do this because of the experience that Pickett has during his college career. And he's very mature. I think he's not going to be new to his surroundings. This guy should be able to. He is in the single best situation he could be in, I think, regardless because of where he got picked.
No, I agree. It is interesting because we definitely heard about that a lot, that Tomlin did not want to start a rookie, and we don't know if he will or not. But
and that's secondhand. We have all of those reports that we wrote were off of Jay Glazier.
True. But Glazier is very, very close with Tomlin,
sure.
So I take that as he's well placed to say that. But sure. Pickett certainly is the most ready. It's certainly a difference between Pickett potentially starting and, say, Malik Willis or Matt Corral potentially starting. I think 2 different circumstances there. And so if Pickett does start, it'll be because he's earned it and he's ready. And so that's just a different overall set of circumstances.
Right. And it shouldn't, if there's any doubt, if you're looking at it throughout this process and you say, look, Trubisky's more stable, it's pretty night and day here that Kenny's got to work on these things, then Mitch Trubisky should be your week 1 starter. However, if it even looks like it's close, you're sitting there saying, man, which one of these guys should they start? I think they should start Pickett then at that point, to be honest with you. And then the other, obviously, side of the coin, the third side of the coin would be, man, Pickett's just blowing Trubisky away here, and that's really a good problem to have.
Yeah. That is either, unless that means like Pickett's playing okay and Trubisky's terrible.
True.
Maybe not the
that's
ideal
the fourth, thing. That's the fourth
side of the coin. Right. Yeah. Maybe we should get a dice out at this point. But
all right. Gary Veneer writes in, Name That Tune. The first version of that show had the contestants run down a runway and then resembled a bowling lane. The first to ring a bell, one in each lane, would get the first attempt to name that tune. Boy, even I don't remember that. Gary must be older than I am. There was the fashionable rope attached to the clapper that the contestant would swing. Wondering if the original would be on YouTube. I imagine it probably is. I haven't looked. He says Bill Cullen equals The Price is Right. He says he was a Pittsburgh native and a newscaster, KDKA, I think, newscaster before he was a game show host. He says he had severe physical limitations due to polio as a child. So Gary chiming in there on the whole Name That Tune. What's your favorite game show? Price is Right. It's yours, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's one of the classic ones. You were sick, you stayed home from school, you watch Price is Right. I don't watch a lot of TV, a lot of game shows, so I don't know if I have one in particular, but Price is Right is pretty solid. There's one. I was in the mechanic's place last week getting a thing done with my tire. What's it called? The Beast? It looks like it was a British show that was kind of brought over to the UK. It's like some sort of trivia thing. It looked kind of cool. I liked it.
All right. Okay. So with that, we'll end. That's all the questions that we have in the queue here. If you'd like to get your question answered, send it to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. I will not be around on Friday, and more than likely we will have Josh Carney and Alex Kozora doing some sort of maybe show for Thursday. That'll be more of a schedule recap show, and any other breaking news. Probably won't be that long of a show. And then from there, obviously the terrible takes every day. And then Alex and I should reconvene at this thing, I think, on Tuesday. Is that the plan, Alex?
Yeah, that sounds good. And maybe we briefly do the whole Tuesday, Friday circuit because we kind of hit more of the off season.
Possibly. Yeah.
Okay. We'll figure it out. We'll let you know.
All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version on the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button for $25. You can have an ad-free version on the site. Good job today, Alex. We'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you for listening. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.